Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, class. Class is in session. Today is Wednesday. It is our Wednesday sip. Today is Wednesday, July 22nd, like 2, double the number, double the fun. The 22nd of July, today, Wednesday sip. Class is in session. Good morning. I am your host, Lady Nikki Phoenix. Ensure you have your sip. Ensure you have your notebook and your pen. Get in the classroom. Tag a few of your classmates. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's Wednesday Sip. I am here, I am here, I am here. Are you? Get in the classroom. Come on, let's go. Get in here.
Ever striving, ever seeking, well in love and unity, each endeavoring, all achieving, heal our land. You've graced us with land, sea and beauty. Oh, you fed us from our birth by providing for your children. Oh, from generation to generation, we will lift up our prayer for Antigua, for Barbuda. Lord, we pray for Antigua in the name of Jesus. Lord, we pray for our nation. Please heal our land. Please heal our land. You stood beside us in the midnight hour. Your strong arms held us all together. Now we bless you in Jesus' name, and we pray for you in Jesus' name, the name above every other name.
Proverbs chapter 9. Wisdom had builded her house. She had hewn out her 7 pillars. She had killed her beasts, and she had mingled her wine. She had also furnished her table. She had sent forth her maidens. She cried upon the highest places of the city. Whoso is simple, let him turn in hither. As for him that wanted understanding, she said to him, Come, eat of my bread, and drink of the wine which I have mingled. Forsake the foolish, and live and go in the way of understanding. He that reproveth a scorner getteth to himself shame, and he that rebuketh a wicked man getteth himself a blot. Reprove not a scorner, lest he hate thee. Rebuke a wise man, and he will love thee. Give instructions to a wise man, and he will be yet wiser. Teach a just man, and he will increase in learning. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the holy is understanding. For by me thy days shall be multiplied, and the years of thy life shall be increased. If thou be wise, thou shalt be wise for thyself. But if thou scornest, thou alone shalt bear it. A foolish woman is clamorous, she is simple and knoweth nothing. For she sitteth at the door of her house, on a seat in the highest places of the city, to call passengers who go right on their ways. Whoso is simple, she says, let him turn in hither. And as for him that wanted understanding, she said to him, Stolen waters are sweet, and bread eaten in secret is pleasant. But he knoweth not that the dead are there, and that all her guests are in the depths of hell.
Heal our land.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, class. I am here. Today is Wednesday. It is Wednesday, the 22nd day of July 2026. We're in the land of the living. We want to give the Most High God thanks for another opportunity to be here, to be in this space, to have the opportunity to have discussions. We can be anywhere in the world, like the internet, the media, the frequency of conversations. I know it's time for us to start the program. We've started. Let them know we've started. Tag your classmates, tag everybody. We've started. Yeah. We're doing this sip. It says 12 p.m. my time here in the UK and 7 a.m. in the Caribbean. So I say good morning to you, Antigua, Barbuda, Jamaica, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, Guyana, Antigua, Barbuda, St. Kitts, St. Lucia, Antigua, Barbuda. Good morning, because our guest this morning is joining us from Antigua and Barbuda, and he's in the chat room at the moment. He's in the background, and I can see the background for Antigua, and I already feel the energy, feel the vibe, feel the water, the 365 beaches, and feel the land, sea, and sun. You're not seeing it as yet, but I'm actually seeing the beauty. And you know what? He flipped the camera so I could see it some more. Beautiful! Hello. Make space, make some pace. You know, my mom said, make some pace. You want to make some space, and make some pace so I can come there and enjoy Antigua. But Antigua, Barbuda, welcome to the classroom. Welcome back to this space, Free Press 268, Morning Sip, Lady Nikki Phoenix, this space where we continue to elevate the conversation every single time. On Monday, we started a very important discussion, which we're in Wednesday, and we're still having some comments that we need to address regarding our discussion, regarding our guests, because we had Kenneth Rijak on, and we had Dave Ree. I should say Ambassador Dave Ree was on Monday. And the discussion that we're having, or we started to have on Monday, it's a national conversation about passports, about citizenship, about visa access, about coastal development, about who benefits from the decisions made in our name, as in Antigua and Barbuda's name. So today's class is not returning merely to repeat what was spoken on Monday. We are going deeper, and we're going from a different angle, because the question is no longer whether citizenship by investment brings money into Antigua and Barbuda. The question is what kind of nation that money is helping us to build. Somebody typed a question in the classroom. I did say, when you come with your sip, we come here to elevate. You leave wiser than you came, and ensure that you have your notebook, your pen, and your cup of coffee, your bush tea, your glass of water, whatever you're going to have, because you're going to need it. Okay, elevate the conversation, wake up the sleeping giants. So my question again, or what we're saying again, is no longer about whether the citizenship by investment brings money into Antigua and Barbuda. That's no longer where we're at the moment. The question is what kind of nation that money is helping us to build and has helped us to build so far. Another question is who belongs? Huh? What should citizenship require of an individual to say they have citizenship in a country, to own, to walk with that passport, and to say when you're going through immigration, going anywhere, I'm Antiguan and Barbudan, what citizenship require? What does it require? What responsibility is owed, yeah, to the people whose passport, coastal line, international reputation, and national inheritance are involved? Should I read it again? What responsibility is owed to the people whose passport, and I say Antiguans and Barbadians citizens, and this is the question I asked Dave on Monday. So maybe if I rephrase the question in another way, maybe you'll get it better. So the question is, what responsibility is owed to the citizens, to the people whose passports, coastline, international reputation, and national inheritance is involved or are involved? Because that clip that I shared that had over 20 something thousand views and lots of comments, I'm seeing individuals mentioning that, in the clip I spoke to Dave about me being a Guyanese and born in Guyana and not having a Guyanese passport. And then I'm seeing all these different comments about Antigua and why don't I obtain a Guyanese passport. I'm not looking to obtain a Guyanese passport. I haven't had a Guyanese passport like over 20 years. Yeah, I went to Antigua in 2000 and I got my Antiguan passport in 2014. Hello. Huh? 14 years of dedicated service, well, still dedicating because we're beyond that time, of dedicated service to be able to call myself a citizen of Antigua and Barbuda. So that's why we're having this discussion. I'm happy that Eli is here because Eli made a post on social media a couple of days ago regarding are you for or against selling Antigua passports? And the question has always been, are you for or against? And I want us to go a bit deeper. And I want to give Eli the platform for him to come and share and expand on what that post that he shared and had so many comments on. So the question is again, sorry, let me take a sip. Take a sip, everybody. I had a little bit of a thing in my throat there. So class, what responsibility is owed to citizens and Antiguans and Barbudans, babies, those who were born and bred near Trinkberry in Antigua, whose passport, coastal line, international reputation, and national inheritance are involved. And when ordinary citizens ask those questions, should they be dismissed as anti-development, or should a mature democracy be able to answer them? A mature government, a mature conversation, a mature consultation or consultations when these questions arise. So class, take your seat. Put your island, your country, or your city in the comments because I'm doing a roll call. Your class is in session. I need to know where you're joining the class from. So roll call, let your teacher know where you're joining from, where you're joining your classroom from. Yes. Also, if your mates not in the classes yet, tag your mates. Tag the people, ask them where they're at, ask them if they have the notebook and blah, blah. Ask them if they have their notebook and pen because they're going to want to take notes. Yeah. I don't want you to misquote any part of the conversation because that tends to happen. And if you miss the full conversation on Monday, you can find it here on the page, or I have shared a few links saying watch the full interview here. So be sure to do that. So let's address some things for Monday before we just bring on Eli. He joins us at 7:15. We have a few more minutes to do that. Before our guests join, how would you rate Monday's class? Out of 10, how would you rate the class, and what did we clarify in the class? What remains unanswered from the class, and what is one question you need answered today? That's something that you can give me some class notes and some feedback on, which I think is important. And should Antigua and Barbuda continue CIP in its present form? I think that's a poll and a question that you can leave in the comments, and you can say yes, yes, but only with major reform, or suspend it temporarily, or end it. So you can have a part of that discussion or participate in that discussion. So good morning, everybody. Tag a few people who are not here. Our guest, Eli Fuller, is in the building, in the chat room. And just to give you a little bit about Eli, it's an honor to be able to talk to Eli again, because I think the last time Eli and I did a conversation or did an interview, I did it at Observer Radio. I don't know if he remembers, but we did an interview at Observer Radio in himself and John and, oh my, I'm trying to remember the two other guys that rode the Talisker Atlantic Challenge, or the Talisker Whiskey Atlantic Challenge. 3,000 miles to Lagomera, I think it was, and it was like beyond anything else for four men to do that, wearing the flag of Antigua and Barbuda in a liquor boat. I must say a liquor boat, you know. So when we talk about dedicated service, when we talk about wearing the flag of Antigua, Barbuda, and representing, we're talking about being a community activist for the betterment of Antigua and Barbuda. That's how Eli is represented, and that's how I've always known him and seen him. And I look forward to all the conversations we have, and we're about to have another one. And he's in Antigua by the beach. Let's add him to the chat. Good morning, Eli. I think you're on mute.
Sorry. No, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
Very well. I'm excited to be on your show.
Thank you, Eli. I want to read the post that you made that gathered quite a number of comments. And I did ask if you had a chance to have a little view of the conversation between myself, Dave, and Kenneth. and if there's anything you wish to add there, and then we can take our discussion from there. But just for our audience,
Yeah.
the post that you made, it says, when the United Progressive Party decided to push through the citizenship by investment program or the selling of passports, they told the general public that they would have consultations in communities around the island. I went to the consultations at the Cedar Grove School and was vocally against it. There were a few people who ended up being citizen by investment program agents who clearly did well now from it, who were completely for it. There were some lawyers who were totally for it, and of course, the hardcore UPP were for it. But generally, most people at the school didn't seem happy about it. I would love to hear comments from anybody who went to similar consultations in other communities in Antigua at the time. If you went, can you remember the sentiment inside the room? Did it sound like people who were against it or for it? I have met so many people since then who went through the process of becoming nationalized, of the spending 7 years here, going backwards and forwards to immigration, getting work permits, and living here as full-time residents. Something feels very different when you meet somebody who purchased their Antigua and Barbuda passport. I know many of them as well, but can't help but feel that they are of a different class of citizen than those who became naturalized after staying here for years and years. It is purely money that got them their Antiguan citizenship. The people who made huge amounts of money from CIP obviously still feel the same way about it. All of the mostly foreign real estate companies love it, obviously, and agents around the world selling passports like hot bread love it. We are getting billionaires to build huge mansions along our shoreline in great rapidity. And I'm still not convinced after all these years that there is a net positive. One of the things that I wondered about was if there was any good data on just how many passports have been sold. That's one question. Is it a sustainable model? Is there a number where we say that's enough? Should we keep on selling as many as we can without any change? I wonder if there was a referendum, what the outcome would be, but I know I would vote against it. What about you? For or against selling passports? Eli.
Hmm. Yeah. Sometimes I wake up too early in the morning. I don't sleep that well. I go to sleep late and I wake up early. And sometimes I'm sitting down there and scrolling on Facebook, and I see articles, Antigua Newsroom or Observer, or some of the international ones, and then of course you see threads by local Antiguans, and so I was just sitting there and I see a lot of chat recently about CIP, obviously because of the visa situation in America, and I, when you read it out like that, um, it I'm kind it's so weird. Sometimes when I review something that I've written, I'm kind of surprised. I'm like, wow, okay, that that makes more sense now than I remember when I wrote it. And it's unfortunate that now I realize, because you read it again, I realize that some of the questions asked there were not answered. Because what I was really looking for is I was really looking for people who went to the consultations.
Mhm.
Because I believe that consultations, you don't have consultations about a topic for a joke. I mean, I think consultations with stakeholders, unfortunately, in Antigua and Barbuda, it seems as though they are jokes. It's almost like environmental impact assessment studies. It's a joke. Do you really care what we have to say? I mean, are you having a consultation to check a box, or are you having a consultation to listen to us? And so I was trying to find out, because obviously they ignored us, right? Like, it was the government at the time, the UPP government at the time, knew they were going to push through CIP. So the consultations, they didn't really care what we had to say, right? But what I was hoping for in the comments is people to say, yes, I was at the consultation at this place, or I was at the consultation at that place, and this is what the sentiment was. We didn't get a lot of that. We got a lot of people saying, no, I'm against it, I'm for it. Obviously now, We're seeing more people vocally against it because they look around and they hear more and more people being against it. Antiguans are very weak in my experience. I'm 54 years old next month, and a very weak in my experience when it comes to having a point of view that goes against the tide. So they listen and they hear who's making the loudest noises. So the lawyers, the real estate agents, you know, some of the politicians, they're all making noise and they look around and say, boy, I better not say anything because if I say something now, which is contrary to all these guys, I'm gonna look stupid. So a lot of Antiguan people I find are not brave enough. They feel, I think justifiably, that they will be penalized for going against the tide, right? And so all of a sudden now the tide is changing because people's lives are being changed. I say people's lives. I mean, for example, I spoke to an Antiguan dentist whose children are all getting their degrees in America. And all of a sudden, children can't come home because if they come home, they might not be able to go back and finish their degrees. And the parents can't even go and visit them because they can't get their visas renewed. And so all of a sudden, people who would have never said a thing, they just keep quiet like church mouse. Are like, no, this is ridiculous. We should have never gotten CIP, blah, 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 blah. And so I find all of a sudden the tide is changing and people are becoming more emboldened, more brave. But that braveness is a part of patriotism that is often lacking in our society. Um, I mean, you mentioned that you're originally from Guyana. Um, back in the day, Guyanese people were very vocal about the way that their government was handling or mishandling things. Jamaicans very vocal, Um, Antiguan people sometimes talk when it's too late, and so that's why I posted. I wanted to see who was in these consultations. What did they say? What was the feeling? Um, you know, Again, there's a lot of talk about CIP right now, and that's good. It's late. It's very late, but it's good because I think that what it's doing is it's teaching the average person a little bit more about CIP because a lot of people are like, listen, man, that's not for me. It's not going to affect me. I don't really care either way. I don't want to get involved. And so they didn't even study it. They didn't study who was making money. They didn't study how the process was working, you know. But nowadays, people are starting to open their eyes. They're saying, "Oh man, wait, hold on there. All these construction companies. What's going on here? What? I can't go here anymore. You know, I can't leave Antigua because my passport's. I can't get a visa to go to America to see my family. Like all of a sudden, it's like a big deal. And I think that people are there's a lot of blame on CIP right now, and I think it's justifiable, right? Um, I mean, anybody who says otherwise is just not being honest or just not really, looking at the cards on the table. But it's almost as if it's giving everything else, it's ignoring all the other things. And I was on a similar kind of program to this one with Darren Matthew Ward a few months ago, and CIP and the visas came up, and I said, guys, let's not forget, and this is very important, that there's some other things that Uncle Sam has been watching. You know, when you, it's almost like our pride and our arrogance sometimes, like we think we're bigger and better than everybody else. But the United States views the Caribbean as their third border, and they describe it like that. So the idea that you would attract flights directly from Africa when there's all sorts of turmoil going on in Nigeria and up and down the sort of reachable stretch from these airports that you're going to bring in flights from Africa into Antigua with lots of videos online talking about in Africa, talking about these flights, and they can't even pronounce the country that they're coming to. You know, I saw that like a lot of other people and thought to myself, hold on there a second. Like the whole of MAGA is freaking out about immigrants pouring into their shores. It's like, you know, migration is like the biggest topic in every country, even in South Africa. You know, they're trying, you know, they're all up in arms, wanting to go. I
Mhm.
wouldn't say kill people, but they're trying to commit violence against other Black Africans who don't originate there. This
Yes,
whole obsession and frenzy about migration.
yes,
You know, so I see that happening in America, building a wall and all kind of madness, locking up children, separating children from their parents,
yes.
the savagery that is happening in America. And I'm like, we are bringing in flights from Africa. So before the first flight landed in Antigua and Barbuda, I wrote to the Prime Minister on Facebook. He probably never even got the message because listen, I don't have his personal telephone number, despite what a lot of you people may think. I don't have his email address. I wrote on Facebook just like everybody else can, and I said, PM, with the utmost respect, this is a huge mistake, and you need to speak to the Coast Guard, and you need to start doing patrols around Antigua and Barbuda because guaranteed there's going to be people on those flights who are going to be trying to get to Europe, which is 50 miles to our south. Europe is 50 miles to our south. The United States of America is 200 miles downwind of us. You know, there's another European place 60 miles from us, another one 80 miles from us. You can jump in a tube and float down to the United States in the US Virgin Islands. It's straight downwind of us, you know? I said, this is going to be a problem. These people are going to want to leave. And when that happens, there could be tragedies. No, I can show you that message and I can show you the date on that message if you'd like to see it. But I don't think it doesn't really matter. You know, that would just be saying, okay, see, I told you so, I predicted. But there were 3 vessels that I know of that were reported that left here with migrants. Now we saw the migrants going to Jolly Beach. It was too expensive at Jolly Beach. You know, they were walking around with what they call scandal bag. You know what a scandal bag is?
Yes.
Jamaican, yes. You know, you coming off of a plane. Those were not tourists. Those were not investors. Most of them were from Cameroon. Most of the people on those planes were from the Cameroon. Like they jumped on boats and they left. Bunch of them drowned off of St. Kitts when the boat capsized from being overloaded.
16, Eli, 16.
Yeah, you know, and everybody's like CIP, CIP. You think that had not, listen, there's so many things. You know, we have 2 executives from some of our biggest investors in the country right at the moment. Both of them were wanted in the United States. They were facing 25 years in jail, according to press reports, you know.
Mhm.
They managed to escape that, and they're some of our biggest investors. Like there are so many infractions that if you write a long list of infractions, you know, the Chinese on America's third border. Like we love to, we are proud people. We're independent, and we're a nation. But at the same time, America views us as theirs. You had Marco Rubio giving speeches telling Europe to just remember this over here belongs to us.
Mhm.
This over here, as in the Caribbean archipelago, belongs to them.
Mhm.
So let's not, focusing on CIP. Like, I want to talk to you about beach access. I want to talk to you about what's happening with our coastline, right? Like, I have a petition right now on change.org slash save 365 beaches, right? And I want to talk to you about that. But since you really have the CIP as the forefront of this discussion,
I
let's
do.
talk about it.
I
Let's
do
talk about it.
because
No, no, let's talk about it.
I want to
Uh-huh.
back up on a couple of things because Eli, I gotta let you know that I'm sitting, I'm listening, I'm agreeing. I see people in the comment section agreeing, and I gotta do the investigative thing that I do, you
Sure.
know. And one of the investigative things that I do is that everything that you're saying right now, everything that you're labeling out, listing
Mm,
out, Eli, all through the elections, we've been saying that all through the elections, people have been saying that you have an opportunity to make a decision in selecting a government that would give you answers and questions and make changes and make things.
mm,
I want you to address that. But everything that you're saying now, like literally, I sit down here, even when you say about us being pride, we have this thing about being pride and arrogant, you know, that we are bigger and better. We have a representation in our prime minister that gives that message, that gives that persona. He is the prime minister of the country that is leading the country. And the decisions that the prime minister and the cabinet makes is what the government is what the US takes, is what the international world sees and takes. So I say that, I'll give you an opportunity, don't worry. I say that because I remember when the prime minister invited you on his program. And Eli, I made a post about it. I was excited because I really and truly have to let you know I anticipated you going there, and I anticipated you ruffling some feathers. Let me say real in the sense of ruffling the feathers, because that was the opportunity and time that people needed to
yeah.
hear you ruffle
Uh-huh.
the feathers, because everything that you were saying now, people were saying then. And
Yeah.
also, when you did that interview, you had to do another, you did a live right
Uh,
after, I think the next day, you did a live to clarify some of the things. But
right.
you're one of the we call it, you're one of the firebrands for the
Well,
voice.
okay. So look, just before we go any further on that, you missed, obviously, you missed when you said that I was spewing all kinds of stuff. You missed, and I don't want to focus on that because, there's a lot of really positive things that we can
Secret.
get out of this discussion.
And
But I will say that you, like some other people, missed. You said I was invited on the Prime Minister's show.
yes,
What you didn't say is I was invited on the Prime Minister's show to speak about the excursion sector,
yes, I
right?
can read the
So,
letter.
so, and why was I invited on the Prime Minister's show to speak about the excursions? I was invited to speak about excursion sector on the Prime Minister's show because the Prime Minister said that tourism, he made a post on his Facebook, that tourism is for everybody and we have to change it so to make sure that everybody is enriched. And I said, oh, really? And I wrote
Yes.
on his Facebook, I said, if that's a fact, then let's talk about the excursion sector, because the excursion sector is one part of tourism where it is not just for local people. It in fact more for foreigners than it is for local people at the moment. And so I left it like that, went to bed, woke up the next morning with him making a post saying, I invite Eli Fuller to talk about the excursion sector. So that's why I went to discuss.
Yes.
If the prime minister, I mean, when I can't remember how many ministers were there. It was one, two, three, if I remember correctly, there was three ministers sitting on the desk. I was sitting on the very far end of the desk, almost out of the picture. There were three ABLP cabinet members at the desk. I was invited to talk about the excursions. If I go there and talk about citizen by investment, environmental issues, do you know, I had people who are friends of mine who called me the day before saying, why is this lawyer investigating your company? Why is this person asking about your background? Why? Those guys were ready for me to come and do what you wanted me to do. Those
Are you
guys were waiting.
serious? Wait,
Those
Eli, are you
guys,
serious?
of course, but why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they? You know what I mean?
Why?
Look,
But
because
Eli, why?
they assumed that I was gonna go there and fire a bunch of shots at them. But the thing is, my goal was to make the excursion sector fairer for Antiguan people. That is what I stated, and that's the important thing. When you have a goal, right? It's very important to stick to what it is that your goal is. And anyway, listen, my goal today is to talk to you about
No, I'm
the
glad you cleared that up. Wait, let me
and
give you
and
much support. Wait, Eli, wait,
uh
don't go further. Don't go further. I'm grateful for that. I am grateful that I can bring it up, that you can say that, Eli. And even
yeah,
say to
because
hear that.
the other thing that's
Because
very annoying, Nikki, and I tell you what, I try
no,
to
no, wait,
not
don't
get so
no, no, no,
frustrated,
no, no,
right?
wait,
Let me
don't
tell you,
wait 1 second, 1 second. You did the right thing. You did the right thing, and nobody knew what was happening behind the scenes, and you made that
Mm,
decision. And even
yeah,
for else, I'm going to sit here right now. I'm going to say, from what you've shared, you did the right thing. We don't even need to continue with that because
Okay,
there's another
so let's
angle.
let's talk about CIP because I really want to talk about CIP just a little bit before we get into this
So let's talk
situation.
about the lawyers. Let's talk about
Yeah,
the
yeah,
angle we're talking
yeah,
about
yeah.
businesses.
Well, not just that. You know, you made a statement. Like, look, I don't really want to make this too political, but you made a statement, and I
Yeah.
think it's important. I believe. Look, one of the only subject I got a one for in CXC was Caribbean history, right? That was the only one that I got a one for. Was disappointed. I wanted to get ones in various other subjects, but I got a one for Caribbean history. And I believe that history is one of the most important things for a little tiny, small island developing state.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, people in this country hate history just about as much as they hate trees from the looks of it. So, speaking of trees, you know what kind of trees these
Show me
are?
the show me the beach. Show me the beach. Give me a flip.
No, no, no. I'm not on the beach. I wish I was on the beach. I'm in Jolly Harbor and along the shoreline. But listen, so look, watch. Let's stay focused, I think, and because this is a meaningful discussion
Yes.
on how CIP, and not just how CIP, but also how the thirst for wealthy people coming to our shores is affecting the future of Antigua and Barbudan citizens. Because it's not just the thirst for citizen by investment.
Hmm.
You know, every politician that's ever tried to win an election in this country is hyper focused on how much development they're going to bring into the country, how much investment they're going to bring into the country, and by extension, how little the people they're competing against would bring in or have brought in. It's all, you listen to them and you're like, oh, well, we have 7 resorts going on the cards. Or they'll say, oh, those guys have been in power for 10 years and they haven't done anything. It's ground. Like we have been conditioned by our politicians to judge our success based on how much development there is,
Yes.
right? So when this idea of CIP came up, the reason that there were several reasons that it was pushed through. One of the main reasons it was pushed through is because there were. I mean, look, anytime it's weird because anytime ABLP haters, you see me, I'm a country lover. I don't. For me, political parties here, they again, I just said they're the same in that they want development. That's what they focus on, right?
Hmm.
And so I'm going to say something. Whenever I talk about history, everybody, all the UPP diehards get all freaked out. But UPP introduced CIP. There were people in the UPP who were so fanatically against it, justifiably, correctly, in my opinion, that they were fired from the UPP. Do you remember that?
I
You want to
do.
talk about that? Anybody want to
I
talk about that?
remember. I remember.
Some of them, yeah. So let me start by saying that
Yes.
there were really sensible people who were fired in the UPP for saying, no, I can't be part of this. I'm
Yeah.
not going to be part of this. I'm not voting with y'all. I'm against it.
Yes.
They say, oh yeah, move your ass. Boom, out.
Yeah.
And so let's just start by saying that. However, the majority of the people at the top of the UPP, the loudest speakers, the most convincing speakers, the strongest speakers, probably the most intelligent people in the government of the UPP were for it. And they were for it. And guess what? They're still for it. And they're still making money off of it. Right? There are some legal firms out there that without CIP, there would be a dramatic change in the income of those legal firms. And what has happened in CIP over the years is that, it's like any business. If you're a really, really super intelligent business,
Mhm.
you try and capture everything. You don't let the water bucket spill a little bit over here and spill a little bit. You want everything.
Mhm.
So you start a real estate company. You start, you say, okay, well, let's buy some trucks. Like everything you could possibly get to capture development from the CIP, You do. And you have some extremely wealthy people who have become even more wealthy during CIP. And this thing called lobbying, you always hear about it happening in the United States. We have extreme lobbying in Antigua, but you know what? It's less controlled even than it is in the States. So you have some extremely wealthy people making huge amounts of money
Mhm.
off of this thing, and they're not gonna let, you know, little noisy people like you or little noisy people like me getting away from the millions and millions and millions of dollars they're making. Like you go to the grocery store here, if you have 3 kids and you're making 15,000 EC a month and you have 3 kids, you paying your mortgage, your car loan. You even with 15,000 EC a month, which is a huge amount of money to a
I
lot of
was
Antiguan
I
people.
was about to say that the average Antiguan does not even make that.
Wait. I'm saying if you are making $15,000, you have a house mortgage. I'm not saying you're paying rent now. You have a house mortgage and you have a car. Even with $15,000 a month and you have 3 kids in school, you're not saving any money now. And when you go to the grocery store, you're looking like the fruits and you're like, well, let me go down the street and see if I find 2 mango because I can't afford those fruits there. Like the standard of living, the cost of living in this country is massive. But guess what? $15,000 a month is like small change to people who are in that bubble of CIP related industry. So, yes, it's making huge amounts of money for a sector of our society who happens to also be some of the strongest lobbyists in our society,
Mhm.
who will go to politicians on both sides still and say, yo, what you need? I met the two representatives from St. Mary's South, one in opposition, one not. And both of them, both sides, were benefiting from that kind of wealth
How?
being being lobbied. Because, for example, I'll say it straight up because I'm very disappointed in Shuggy. I said to Shuggy, the first day I met Shuggy, when I wanted to talk about beach access, which is what we're coming to, hopefully,
Yes.
I had heard through the grapevine that Calvin Air supported Shuggy. So I said to Shuggy when I met him, I reached my hand out, I shook his hand as he was about to step on my boat because he agreed to come on my boat so I could show him St. Mary's from the water and talk about all the things, all the threats, the strengths, the weakness, the opportunities and threats that are happening in St. Mary's. And so the first thing I said to him is, hello, Shuggy, nice to meet you. I hear Calvin Air is really looking after you these days. Because you know me, you sometimes, you guys make it sound like I'm scared to ask the
No, I
prime
know
minister
you're not.
something.
I know you're
You know what I
not.
mean?
That's why I
Like,
wanted to know what
you tell you,
happened.
like I'm not trying to say I'm a fearless person, right? But well, okay, you know what? Yes, I'm afraid, and that's the reality of it. People look at me and say, "Boy, Eli, you have a lot to lose, and you should keep your mouth shut about this. You should keep your mouth
Mhm.
shut." No, my brain doesn't work that way. And so I said to him, I wanted to see if it was true. I wanted to see his reaction because
Mhm.
it was just hearsay. So he could say, "No, that's bullshit. What are you talking about?" Right?
Mhm.
You know what his response to me was when I
What?
said, "I hear Calvin Air looking after you." He said, "Oh, yes, Mr. Air has always been very supportive of my political campaigns." That's what his response to me. Okay. Then I took him out for an hour and a half, showed him all the problems, showed him a beach that is approximately 200 feet long, adjacent to Reed's Point, which is on the far end of Jolly Beach. If you go to Jolly Beach, you go all the way to the far end. On the far end, on the northern end,
Mhm.
there's a little hill called Reed's Point. You go around that point, and there's a little beach there. It doesn't even have a name. That beach has been fenced off. You cannot get to that beach other than by kayak, which is how I get there with my little children. I have a
Fenced
three-man
off
kayak.
for who? Fenced off for who and by whom?
During the UPP years, again, I hate to say it, but the thing is, when all this narrative is, oh, ALP is bad, ALP is bad, listen, let me tell you, both of them do stupidness. So during the UPP years, La Perla, if you don't know if you remember La Perla was able to buy Jolly Harbor. And the first thing that they did was subdivided this piece of land because at that stage, Jolly Harbor owned it, CDAL, company owned it, called CDAL owned it. CDAL was the company that purchased this entire 1.4% of the surface area of Antigua from BC Bird for $1, right? Which became known as Jolly Harbor. It became known as Jolly Harbor, but the company was called CDAL. CDAL owned the land. They sold it to La Perla, a Dutch company, and La Perla during the UPP years was able to subdivide all the land along this shoreline without any beach access. So I don't know if the DCA, the survey department, lands, I don't know who is sleeping, but they allowed this land to be subdivided. There is no beach access. And I showed this to Shuggy. I talked to him about all the problems. Anyway, nonetheless, I don't want to focus on Shuggy because it's not about him. It's about our people. And there's a lot of our people are just, if they get support financially from people, they will turn their back on the goal. And I
I
talked to you
know
about the
that
goal.
just to interject, I know that Dwayne George is the MP over in that area now. Have you been able to speak to him since April or any conversations, anything?
Since I heard of Dwayne George being a representative, I reached out to him and I did the same thing with him. I showed him all these places. But I mean, anybody with a sharp eye, and half a brain cell can see that Dwayne George is part of a party that is ruling this country, and it is part of a government that has a very strong prime minister. And I don't think Dwayne George is going to be down here in St. Mary's South going against Gaston Brown's wishes. But you would expect that something called an opposition might do that.
Facts.
It didn't. So up to now, that beach, and by the way, me and a local Antiguan lady who has a business here, we went and sat down with the then chief town and country planner, Mr. Southwell, Frederick Southwell. We went in his office, took out the maps, showed him the beach, said, yo, this is still fenced. Up to now, I've spoken with Rod and Turner. I've been talking about this for so long. The beach is still fenced. You cannot get to the beach unless you go by kayak or boat, right? That's in Antigua. Now, since then, of course, we saw the photo with Shuggy and Gaston Brown. The only photos you'll ever see of Shuggy and Gaston Brown smiling at the same time at the camera is when they're breaking ground for Calvin Ayers' development, Nikki Beach. Now, look, this is what I want to focus on, because you talk about CIP, it's all related. It's all about trying to bow to the rich. Let's get the rich. Let's get the rich here by any means necessary. And we have a society that for too long has been focused on the rich. Now, I'm going to tell you what happened down here. I don't know how much more time we have, Nikki. How much more time do we have?
You're going on to have your all time to the show until about 1:30 or 8:30 your time.
Okay, well,
That's us. We got time unless
okay,
you
so
got
look, let me yeah, I might have to run before that, but listen, I want to just step back just a little bit because we didn't get a chance. First of all, a lot of people don't know me, right? So, and I see a lot of comments on these things. Say, oh, you're just looking after yourself. You just don't care about people. You're just looking after yourself. The excursion sector, when I went to talk on Gaston Brown's program.
Mm-hmm.
My
Wait,
company,
Eli, you have to say the right honorable.
I don't have to say it.
Go ahead, I just messing with you.
Yeah. So anyway, so like I have an excursion company. Like if you use ChatGPT or Gemini or any of these things, you ask who has the best reviews of tours in Antigua. Listen, my company, it has really good reputation. I'm established, right? Like, not to say I don't have challenges in my sector, but like I was trying to help the people of Antigua and Barbuda, future excursion operators. I was trying to help my employees who may decide to go up and start their own companies, because the way it worked is like, no, they're at a disadvantage to foreigners who are coming in here on Monday, and by Friday afternoon they're running tours.
Yep.
So here it is again now. Let me just explain to people who I am. I have my company, between my company and my stepmom, who's looking after my dad's boat. I think we have 7 boats right here in Jolly Harbor.
Mm-hmm.
I have 2 kayaks. I have more old windsurf boards than I can remember, like a lot of them lying around since the 80s kind of thing. I have e-foil board. Listen, I have so much watercraft that nobody is going to stop me from going to any part of this coastline of our country. Nobody. And when they come and try and tell me anything, I just cuss their ass right then and there, right? So I'm not yelling and shouting about beach access for me. I actually like quiet beaches. I like beaches that there's nobody on. I feel so happy when I get. Yesterday, I went to a beach and it was just me and my wife and our children, nobody else there, you know? And I was like, yeah, man, long may this. I said to them, I said to the guys, look around. You see this? This is not going to last very much longer. So really take it in, right? So if there's no beach access tomorrow, it's not going to change my lifestyle, right? So I'm sticking my neck out on the line, fighting the system right now, not for me. And this narrative that keeps on happening in Antigua by people who don't know me, say, oh, you're just doing things for yourself. Trust me. I like Jolly Beach quiet, you know, but I know it's not fair to make it quiet by design.
Hmm.
And that's what's happening in Antigua and Barbuda right now. There are beaches in Antigua and Barbuda that are quiet by design. And what does that mean? That means that the access to the access is so hard that people don't go to those beaches anymore. How often, Nikki, in your 20 years of living in Antigua, did you go for a swim on the beach called Jumbie Bay?
I just drive in my car, jump in a car and drive and go to Jumbie Bay. Just go anytime. Anytime I feel
No,
like.
but did you go and swim on that beach, Jumbie Bay?
Yes.
Really? So you got a ferry and you went out there?
No, which one is Jumbie Bay? Which area is Which is the one when I go
No,
all the
no,
way?
Jumbie Bay. Remember, Jumbie Bay, Long Island
No, it's
Resort, right?
Carlisle Bay. I'm mixing up Jumbie Bay and
Okay,
Carlisle.
okay. So again, how many times did you swim at the beaches at Mill Reef?
None.
None. How many times have you swam at a beach called Pasture Bay, which has the highest concentration of hawksbill turtle nests in the Atlantic Ocean? How many times did you swim there?
Never been there.
Okay. How many times have you swum at Pinchin Bay?
Never.
Yeah. There's a lot of beaches in Antigua, lots of beautiful beaches that you and most of the people listening to this program have never and will never swim on because the access to the access is all very well and good for people to say, oh, you can't block anybody from an Antiguan beach. It's against. When I hear people say that, I just want to just get up and slap them. Shut up. What do you mean? Don't tell me about no law. Tell me about what's happening in practice. And I can tell you that when you make the access so difficult, you know, these guys over here in Jolly Harbor, they build a little tiny boardwalk path about 2.5, 3 feet wide that you can get to the beach. But there's no parking, no official parking within, you know, within walking distance from that path. That same beach I told you that is blocked, can't get to.
Mhm.
On the opposite side of the road from that, at the base of Reed's Point, there's a public access point. And they have to keep it there, right? But about 1.5 miles from there, you can park your car. So my wife is on crutches right now. So we go down there and we park on private property. And I'm like, well, you know, if somebody wants to come and start some ruction, they can come and tell me to move. But I want to go to the beach with my wife, and we're going to go to this beach. So I park on private property. So the access to the access is very important, especially, you know, as we attract more and more CIP people, more and more billionaires, more and more millionaires, because that is the obsession of our people since VC Bird. VC Bird was not like that. VC Bird was the last politician in our country that I can think of who didn't care about your money. This man fought to get lands back. Remember I told you I love Caribbean history. This man fought. He stood up tall in his tall stature, going against these colonists, landowners. And he didn't care what he said. He didn't care who he was talking to. He wanted something. He had a goal. And he wanted our people to have that access. He wanted our people to have that opportunity.
Mhm.
He wanted people to not feel like they were on somebody else's property because they were on their own independent country's land. A developer would come, millions, billions. He didn't ask you how much money you had, you know? Because guess what? You were a foreigner coming to beg me to build a hotel, to buy some land, whatever else. And everybody knew their place. All foreigners knew their place. My father was born here in Antigua, as most of his seven, there were seven children. Most of them were born here, my uncles and aunties. My grandfather came here as a foreigner.
Hmm.
I don't know if my grandfather, I don't know, maybe he did. I don't know if he ever got a Antiguan passport. I don't think my grandmother ever did, even though she lived here for 60 something years. These people, they knew that they were foreigners. They lived here. They knew more about Antigua than most people. They invested here. They lived their whole life here. They never lived my entire life they lived here. But they still knew, yo, we're foreigners. We're guests here.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And when I was growing up, I'd meet foreigners regularly. My dad was a lawyer here, so sometimes he would meet, Italian developers or whatever else. He represented the Swiss developer who had Jolly Beach, but every one of them, when people say you pass your place, every one of them knew where their place was. Yo, I'm in an independent country run by the people who had to fight to get their country. So I better respect them. I better listen to what they have to say. And if they say no, okay, that's it. I will try. I'm a businessman, so I'm going to try and see how I can influence these politicians. And some of them are,
Yeah.
some of them will be influenced. But at the end of the day, they always knew. At the end of the day, there was some sort of value to being an Antiguan and Barbudan citizen.
Mhm.
I went to school here when I was 12 years old. I started learning how to windsurf, and I don't want to get into that too much, except to say that I trained really hard when I was 12, and before I turned 13, there was a windsurfing regatta called the Windsurfing Antigua Week, 1986 or 85, and the race was from Jolly Beach to Montserrat. Yeah. So
Mhm.
we had a bunch of Antiguan people. In fact, back in those days, there was Normandy and Shines and a bunch of Antiguan guys who, were working at hotels. Windsurfing was a big deal in the 80s, around the world. And I don't know, there were 40 of us that windsurfed from Jolly Beach to Montserrat. And for the rest of my teenage years, until I graduated from my St. Joseph's Academy when I was 16, the next 4 years, I raced up and down the Caribbean. And everywhere I went, had my Antigua flag. I raced in the U.S. Virgin Islands. I raced in Barbados. I raced in Martinique. I raced in the British Virgin Islands. Every time Antigua flag. Eli Fuller of Antigua and Barbuda. Whatever. Like I was so proud. Why was I proud? And this is another thing I would love to change in our country. I want to change, and I'm going to be working. I have been working for a long time, but I want to work even harder to sort of teach Antiguan and Barbudan people why they should be proud. Just saying you're proud because you have a beautiful flag and we have 365 beaches, that's not enough.
Mhm.
I want people to learn, what do we have on our beaches? What do we have in our lands? What do we have in our waters that's unique? How is our geography unique? How is our history unique? People need to learn that, so then they get a different sense of pride. But I had that pride because I was privileged in this country to grow up with people who were water, were sea people. Like my family were out in the water all the time, exploring Barbuda. So I was so proud of our ecosystems, our history. The turtles, the whales, the dolphins, the sharks. So windsurfing around the Caribbean, Antigua and Barbuda, chest broad, no frig, got a place. You weren't in Antigua then, but when Heritage Key started, they had a shop called I think John McGinley and his wife at the time, Giselle Hadid, they started it called Beach Stuff. And Beach Stuff was really cool, and they had a bunch of beautiful T-shirts made. All of them, of course, Antigua and Barbuda on them, because when tourists are coming in, they want to buy a T-shirt that says Antigua and Barbuda.
Mhm.
When I graduated from St. Joseph's Academy in 1989, as I said, I was 16. I was turning 17 that summer. I got into one single university in Florida, and I went to Beach Stuff with my mom, and I said, "Mom, I want 7 shirts, one for every day of the week. and I picked them all out, every single one of them. Big Antigua. I had my favorite one was a picture of a globe and an arrow pointing to Antigua, and it said Antigua and Barbuda. And I went to Florida, and I joined the Caribbean Student Association with Antiguans, Alan Scholl, Curtis McKay, Shane St. Louis. There were a bunch of Antiguans there,
Mm.
and we were so proud. I
So what
windsurf
has
raced.
happened? Eli, what has happened? Because listening to you
Well,
is what I've
yeah,
always listened to. I've always been inspired by you. I mean, when we've had our interviews, I remember even being able to interview you and the guys when you're out on the waters, when you would normally set the time and I call in and check in on you. So I know that you are Antigua. Yeah, you're
yeah,
Antigua, like land, sea, and sun, the expression of the promotion of the flag and
yeah.
wearing that. I know that. We know that. What has happened? What is it
Well, I'm
that
going to
you
get to that.
are?
Let me get to that because the point I'm trying to make is coming real quick. I mean, I know I'm long-winded sometimes, but it's a big
No,
circle I'm trying to get to,
that's
right? So,
just want to let you know.
sailing. I got into sailing. I bought boats that were built by Caribbean people historically on the beach in Carriacou, the Grenadines. I raced up and down the Caribbean in classic yacht regattas. I've been a captain and owned fishing boats, and have competed in islands up and down the Caribbean, always representing Antigua and Barbuda.
Mhm.
Um, and anybody who's into sports, or not even sports, anybody who's into anything where they wear a flag and they represent the country has a deep pride. But when you grow up as we did in a privileged way with a little Boston whaler, going and experiencing it, I see people who buy a passport on a Monday, and on Friday they have the same rights as me and have the same identity as I have. I'm an Antiguan. I'm proud of my country. I'm like, but hold on there a second. Last week you were Malaysian, and this week you're Antiguan, and you have the same pride of country, the same knowledge, the same
Abs-
feeling of what it feels like to be an Antiguan citizen. The fight that VC Bird did to get all the lands, our lands,
mm.
and you're giving this guy who bought a passport last week a quarter acre or 2 acres of shoreline, which he now is fencing, and he now is pushing down rocks to the water so that people have to walk through those rocks and then realize they can't get, like, this is a madness.
Hmm.
It's a madness. I see CIP differently because of my background, because I wore the Antigua flag, the Antigua shirt up and down the Caribbean, all around the world. I went to the Olympics for Antigua and Barbuda in 1988 in South Korea. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
the
Eli, what's up with your Wi-Fi? Are you there? Is it me or what's
that
going
I,
on?
you know,
You
you there
there?
still?
Yes, I wanted
Yeah.
to happen. I was like, don't go. Not yet.
Sorry. So what I'm saying is the patriotism that I have felt my entire life, it's changing. It's become diluted.
Mm.
That patriotism that you could cut with a knife, the patriotism that I have felt. I'm not just proud because burning flames are just amazing, because our flag is pretty, or because I can tell people we have 300. I've lived a life privileged enough to experience Codrington, Barbuda in the 70s and the 80s, Welch's, North Beach, all around this country, and I feel it. And so when somebody, another one, we don't even know how many CIP passports, I mean, maybe we do. I don't know if we know. I don't think we know how many CIP passports have been sold. But, I live on a little tiny island in Jolly Harbor. It was made of dredge material, right? Like, and on this street where I live here, I was surprised to meet 3 CIP people. There's lots of them all over Antigua, all over. You'd be surprised. I met a Nigerian couple with 3 kids on the beach at Jolly Beach not too long ago. There's
Nigerian?
yeah, there's lots. I think they were Nigerian or Kenyan. I can't remember. That's a big difference. But anyway, they were Africans.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was talking to them. They thought I was a tourist, and they're like, "Yeah, they didn't like Antigua one bit. They didn't like it one bit.
What?
Black Africans And I was talking to them, and they didn't like it. Like, nah, we prefer, Paris, we prefer, and I was trying to say to them, but like the whales are going to be here next month. It's March. March is when the whales come, and you got to go to Barbuda. You're not interested in that. And so my feeling when it comes to CIP is, yeah, some lawyers are going to make a bunch of money.
Mhm.
Some real estate agents are going to make a bunch of money. And that's another thing about CIP, which makes me nauseous to my frigging core. How many foreign real estate agents are making millions in this country? It's just mind boggling. But this is another issue with CIP. It's just how much money doesn't actually stay here. So you have some people who are building on the shoreline, multi millionaires who will come here maybe 2 weeks a year to enjoy their house over Christmas and New Year's or whatever, and then they rent it for the rest of the time. Their house filled with all the amazing things that a billionaire would have in their house, containers and containers coming in tax free, duty free, concessions left, right, and center, so they can spend their millions and billions here. The foreign real estate agents who sold on the land are like delighted because they also get to rent the house for the rest of the time for hundreds of thousands of dollars. The foreign construction firms whose principals have only been in Antigua, a year, who bring in foreign overseers. I call them overseers, whether they be foremen or whatever else. Um, and then all the foreign construction workers. And I'm like, so we're selling our passport. We're pushing these people to build here, but they're going through foreign agents. They're getting duty-free tax concessions on the properties that they're building along shorelines, which they quickly put fences up on. Foreign construction workers. Like, how is this helping? Like all the people who are into it are like, oh, well, if you get rid of CIP, what are you going to do with the shortfall? Well, I don't know about you. That's another weird thing. Like, if we were to cut government spending, the negligence. I've always said for a very long time that incompetence is worse than corruption. I still feel that way. Both are horrible. Both are horrible. But incompetence, how much money we waste in Antigua? The road behind me here in Jennings, that road is almost 12 years they're building that road, They haven't finished yet. They've
12
resurfaced
years.
that road. Yeah, they've resurfaced the road countless times. Like, you look around Antigua, if you really open your eyes, you will see things and you're like, well, that's a waste of money. That's a waste of money. That's a waste of money. So when they ask, what are you going to do with the shortfall if we end CIP? Yeah, just waste less money.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? For as long as I've been alive, I've been hearing the government payroll is bloated. I also hear that we can't find employees to work on these construction firms. Well, that sounds pretty logical. You got too many people working for government in one hand, and not enough people to sell homes, real estate agents to build houses, to be contractors. Like, it seems like a no-brainer. Like, we have to examine and deal with the fact that for too long politicians have hired people so that they get the votes from that family. And this is a strange corruption that both parties have been involved in for decades. We spend too much money on the government payroll. So there's many things we can do to make up the shortfall. Before laying off government people, of course I wouldn't do that. I would think more about cutting the waste, you
You
know.
know, I haven't been in Antigua since 2019, and I'm curious to hear more about this real estate and what has changed, which area has changed, like even some of the beaches. Tell me the beaches that I could have gone, Eli, that I can't go now. Like, tell me, because I could jump in my
Well, okay.
I could drive all
Let
the
me
way
let me
down.
tell you, okay, so I talk too much.
No, tell
Everybody
me
knows
some
that.
more. What happened
So
to
so
Long
let
Beach?
me tell you. Let me tell you. So again, DC Bird, love that guy. Brave. I love people who are brave. I think I admire brave people. And in 1981, he led us to independence. Was that a good thing? I don't know. We could debate that. But it left. Great Britain was delighted. Great Britain was delighted. Again, remember I told you I love history, right? So
Mhm.
for hundreds of years, England, Great Britain, enriched itself through exploiting these islands,
Facts.
exploiting enslaved West Africans who were shipped like sardines, dying left, right, and center on the Middle Passage across to this island here. Then the British, whose wealthy absentee landowners, what does absentee landowners mean? It means that the people who were rich and actually put their name on a map here in this country didn't even step foot here. They're like, yo, I'm gonna own this place, I'm gonna own that place, and I'm gonna hire some poor Welsh people or poor Irish to come and run the farm. And look, you guys report to me. You know, you're allowed to buy, 100 West Africans to work on my farm. You have to run it, and huge amounts of wealth was generated for Great Britain. When slavery finished here in a year before it finished everywhere else, in 1834, all of a sudden, you know, you just start paying people. But of course, they didn't pay very much. At the same time, the sugar beet was taking over from sugarcane as in terms of sugar production, and also, you know, the other colonies were ramping up their sugar production. Even the United States of America was producing huge amounts of sugar. So it was no longer profitable for the British. These places were an annoyance. They were actually the money, instead of the money coming out of Antigua, all of a sudden we got to send money to run the country, this place.
Mhm.
And so when, thanks to horrible conditions and advantage left, right, and center, people like BC and others said, nah, we had enough of this. We want our independence. We don't care what the alternative is. We just want an alternative. This is not fair. And so they fought for it. They were broke. See, that's another thing people sort of forget to realize. In 1981, Antigua was broke. We were trying to build an economy that we could actually self-sustain us. Sustainable development. We wanted to be able to look after our country, pay our bills, and bring people out of poverty. That was the point of independence.
Yes.
So we're going to get back the lands. We're going to pay back the British for their lands, whatever, right? You come to a situation a few years later when 1988, so Antigua was 7 years old, poor, poverty. If people now complaining about not having water, they weren't, a lot of them were not alive back in 1985, 1986. If you think you don't have water now, try go live back then. I live at High Point. That's where I grew up, High Point, Coolidge. We used to bring in barges from Dominica to High Point of water. They go stick a barge by a river, suck up the river water, and come over here and give us water so we could have water in our taps. It was dread. So VC Bird was like trying to find these investors, right? Remember, that's how it kind of got started. You need investors to try and get jobs, to try and get money into the economy. So Jolly Beach at the time was owned by a guy called Dr. Earhart, Swiss, probably a billionaire at the time, who had Jolly Beach Hotel. And he hired my dad to be his lawyer. And he said, John, listen, too much mosquitoes down here. Let's dredge the swamp over there. Go and meet with the prime minister and see if he's interested in me buying the swamp and turning it into a marina. So that's how Jolly Harbor started, in the discussion anyway.
Yes.
So ultimately, this was the deal. And this is so important. This is why I'm on the show with you, Nikki, okay? The deal was that a Swiss billionaire who had hotels in the Mediterranean, who already was an expert hotelier, who was bringing in at the time his own planes. Now, how many hotels in Antigua bring in their own planes from Switzerland or from Europe? None. He was bringing in his own planes to Jolly Beach. Jolly Beach, when they were full, it could take 900 people. So he was bringing in multiple planes. It was the biggest and strongest hotel in Antigua, making the most money. Still, to this day, is one of the most profitable hotels in Antigua and Barbuda. And so DC knew that this guy was capable. He knew he had the money. He knew he had Swiss engineers who could develop something really good. So the deal was Dr. Earhart goes to BC Bird and says, look, I know you fought really hard to get these lands. I want to buy them 1.4% of the surface area of Antigua. I'm going to call it Jolly Harbor. I'm going to dredge the swamp. I'm going to dig an inlet through into the swamp. I'm going to put in seawall so the swamp doesn't fall in on itself. And I'm going to build 500 villas, 500 two-bedroom, two-bathroom villas without opening my business. I'm not going to open until I build 500 villas. Now, let me just tell you something, Nikki. Most developers who come here, they build a showroom because a lot of them don't have the money. They build a showroom, they print nice brochures, and then they try to get the money from deposits to build the rest. This developer was different. He had the cash. He built it before selling any. So the prime minister said, okay, you're going to build 500 villas. You're going to build on the beach from Jolly Beach all the way to Sleeping Indian, and you want it for $1. I'll tell you what, no problem, but this cannot be some sort of Mill Reef Club. Mill Reef Club, for those people who don't know, is a place on the eastern side of Antigua. They own multiple islands, including Green Island. They own some of the most beautiful beaches in the country. They came here in the 60s and they flew around the Eastern Caribbean, flying around looking, and they decided that the property called Mill Reef, from Nonsuch Bay to Half Moon Bay, is the most beautiful place in the Caribbean. And so what they did is they secretly went to several lawyers who went to the families and they bought all these plots of land from the families until they could conglomerate one big, massive place called Mill Reef, and they closed it. That's why I asked you, have you ever swum there?
Mm-hmm.
You said, no, I know you never swim there. I know most Antiguan people never swim there because you can't drive in. And if you feel you're bad, you can walk from Half Moon Bay around the rocks, as BC Bird's granddaughter did. And when they get to the beach that belongs to Mill Reef, the security guard will tell you, hey, come, get down from, move, go down, and you can't be here. So when Amelia Bird was told to move her ass by a Jamaican security guard, she complained about it. She grew up in a French island that has a little bit different patriotism. They're more aggressive with their patriotism than our people. And so she was like, no, I'm an Antiguan citizen. No, you can't tell me to move. And she made a big fuss about it. But the reality is that not much has changed over there. Mill Reef now doesn't even allow our excursion boats to go and have barbecues there unless we pay $1,000 to step above the high water mark, right? So there are older Antiguans who know a lot about Mill Reef, who are not really happy about Mill Reef, but sort of accept it because Mill Reef do what a lot of wealthy people do. They buy new x-ray machines for our hospital, or they give money to the girls' home, or, you know, they help out, right? Police, you guys need another pickup truck? Okay, here's a pickup truck. Thanks from the Mill Reef. You know, Jumbie Bay does the same thing. And of course, the guys in Jolly Harbor have been doing the same thing recently as well. But Mill Reef, is it a net positive for Antigua and Barbuda? I don't know. But I know that the average person who knows about Mill Reef wouldn't want another Mill Reef in Antigua. So let's go back down to the story where VC Bird says, this place, Jolly Harbor, has to be open. The restaurants, the bars have to be open for Antiguan people. Antiguan people should be able to buy there. Antiguan people should be able to vend on the beaches. Antiguan people should be able to do what residents of this community have been doing for 5,000 years. For 5,000 years, according to historians, people from these communities have been going to fish on the beaches. You know that beach that I told you is fenced off?
Yes.
That beach, for 5,000 years, people have been collecting cockles from that beach. It's a great place to go and collect cockles. I listened to the former Governor General of Antigua and Barbuda talk about how when he was a kid, he used to go and collect cockles there. But he can't go there now because it's fenced. He didn't talk about that. So, Prime Minister says, okay.
You have me. I'm here where you're saying about Antigua and the beachfront and everything that's happening, and I can't begin to imagine from 2019 to now how changed Antigua has changed.
Well, the thing is, unfortunately, Nikki, the journalists are not responding to it. The journalists are not noticing it. The journalists are not talking about it. So let me just quickly, I know we don't have much time. Let me quickly finish this story because this is the
Yeah, I
crux.
wanted to add to it because I wanted to tell you somebody in the chat is saying to me, Nikki, in your spare time, Google luxury real estate agents in Antigua and Barbuda. And while you're talking, I went and I
Oh,
that's why I wanted to add it for you. Let me add this
oh,
for you.
good God.
Yes, that's why I gave you a little pause. Here, this one. You did mention Nikki Beach, and it says here luxury beachfront real estate in Antigua. It says freehold title built by Air Group, which is Calvin Air, designed by HKS Architects, CIP approved project. Construction underway, and it says own beachfront property at Antigua's newest luxury resort, located on Jolly Beach along Antigua's celebrated west coast. The
Don't say
residents.
nothing. Don't say nothing. Don't say nothing. Just wait. Just wait. Stick a pin in that. So watch. Remember, BC Bird sold 1.4% of the most beautiful island in the Caribbean for $1. BC Bird says, I'm going to sell it to you for $1, but you have to build your 500 villas, build a marina, build a shopping center. But guess what? I'm not going to do like all the other properties. The property has to be set back away from the beach. So he didn't give Jolly Harbor CDAL up to the high water mark. He left a big gap between the high water mark and the private property so that we, the people of Antigua and Barbuda, and our
Yes.
guests, and the people who are buying in this community could always lay down on the beach and know that it belongs to us. Nobody can run us, right? And he said, you know what? Also, because it is open and because Antiguan people must enjoy it, how much parking you're going to have? You know, every development has to have parking. If
Yes.
you're building a pizza restaurant, you have to have parking, right? How many bathrooms you have, how much parking? That's what DCA does, right? Parking for over 300 cars. Remember, there's 500 villas, and there's going to be an addition in the original plans. An additional 500 homes will be built, right? So we're talking about 1,000 keys to this community that was sold for $1. We want to have lots of parking for them to access this beautiful wide beach, which we're going to keep as ours. In recent years, Jolly Harbors was sold, and when it was sold, as I told you, they fenced one of the beaches over there, the other side,
Mm-hmm.
and then they subdivided the parking lot. They took the parking lot out of the company called CDAL. Now, when we used to have sailing week and Sweet Cry Freedom concerts, all the Antiguan people come down and park inside of this area, right? It was the official
Yes.
parking lot. They subdivided it, and the place was sold again, and the parking lot was traded to Calvin Air. And the Jolly Harbor parking lot, part of the $1 sale of 1.4% of our island, is now about 20% of Nikki Beach. So that place you were just talking about, the luxury
Yes.
real estate, own your Antigua, it says, and all this kind of stuff. That 20% of that is on the parking lot of Jolly Harbor. So now my wife with her Brookfoot self, we can't drive. I have a mortgage on our property here until I'm 65 years old. We can no longer drive. I have to park illegally. I got a parking ticket the other day from parking down by the beach, believe it or not. Yeah, a parking ticket from the Jolly Harbor security.
In Antigua and Barbuda.
There, this is the new Mill Reef. This is the new Mill Reef. And who was breaking ground at the opening ceremony?
Sugar
Gaston Brown and Sugar. Right, right. And so where's no parking? When you're next to Antigua, bring your family and your little child down to the biggest, widest beach that we have on the island of Antigua. Jolly Harbor Beach, Jolly Beach. And tell me how you park. Tell me where you park. And when you do that, because you're a smart lady, why don't you find out who owns the area where you parked? Because that's another thing. You know, thanks to sargassum, which is not going to finish right now, thanks to climate change and all the rest of it. Half of Antigua's coastline, the eastern coastline, is no longer that nice. It stinks a lot of the time. It smells of sargassum. The mill reefers are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to get the seaweed away from their private houses. The most expensive real estate probably in the Eastern Caribbean right now, all of a sudden, is down here. There's a house that just got finished being built, all by foreigners, for 38 million US dollars. That was the cost. That was the cost of the build of the house. $38 million US. So look, just think about that for a second. Call that 100 million EC dollars with the cost of the house to be built over here. That's the kind of money that's down here right now. And aren't we all happy? Because isn't that what we always wanted? We wanted rich people to come here. How much development did you bring? How much development did you bring? Oh, he's not going to bring enough development. Remember what I told you from the start of this thing? It's always about, we got to bring in these millionaires. We got to bring them in. Well, guess what? The millionaires not fooly. And when we say fooly things like, we live where you vacation. No, you don't. You used to live where they vacation. Now they live where you used to go and live.
Don't say that to me, Eli. Don't say that to me. When I
Boland's
Eli,
Boland's community. Boland's community. I'm talking to you. Boland's community cannot go down to the beach like they could before. The parking is gone. The access to the access has been tightened up so much that these beaches are more private than they've ever been before. And guess who orchestrated the deal to sell off the parking lot?
Who?
A group of 4 owners who live on that same beach. So all of their properties are skyrocketing thanks to the fact that they're becoming more exclusive, harder to get to, more Mill Reef-like. So it's not just CIP. I mean, you just said that these are all CIP approved, of course. And so all the lawyers and all the real estate people are all delighted. But the reality is that they are all shouting about how awesome this is. But the guy in Boland's is like shaking his head and going, boy, you just can't win here. And the people in Jennings are like, well, that's Antigua. And, everybody's shaking their head, But the reality is that access to the coastline of Antigua and Barbuda is getting more and more difficult. In Barbuda, Barbudans can't get to Palmetto Point unless they walk for miles and miles along the shoreline.
I want to go to Long Bay. Eli, let me tell you, when I was living in Willow Keys, I wake up in the morning, Nikki wake up, take on she like a swimsuit, like a thing and everything, and I drive to Long Bay, Eli, and I park up, walk down, go and enjoy Long Bay, every part of Long Bay, Eli. Tell me I can't do that anymore, Eli.
Well, there's a couple problems that are going to happen to that memory of yours. One of the problems is more sargassum. And when the wind's coming from the north, that beach gets covered in sargassum. It's just unfortunate, right? But the other thing is with these massive developments, and you see there's one plan for the corner there, they're like, oh, that's not going to affect the parking. That's not good. Nonsense. It always does. It always does. And so you will say, okay, well, let me come to a different beach, and you'll drive. Look, I went to the north of Antigua where I grew up. I grew up there, right? I went to the north of Antigua recently, and I wanted to go for a swim with my children. And I was like, hold on there a second. Where do I go? Where do I park? Runaway, Dickinson Bay. It's like slowly, bit by bit, the unsustainable development that we are seeing in Antigua is cutting away at our ability to enrich ourselves from our natural resources. Sustainable development is about developing your country in a way that does not ever done it. It's always going to be there. The coastline, the access to the coastline is always going to be there. The short-minded politicians that we have on both sides, they didn't have the privilege that I did to live the coastline, right? And so they don't see it as being very important. They don't see, well, we don't use it anyway, so let's sell it off. We don't use the offshore islands, let them go ahead and, you know what I mean? Like all of a sudden, Antigua has an interior of the island where government's going to build low-income housing with the Chinese help for you Antiguan people, you Barbuda. Don't worry, man. We got you. You can go and live in the middle of the island, but you can't access down there because that belongs to the people who really count, the people with the money. And I believe we have come to a situation where the people who really count, whether they be citizens, whether they bought their passport or not, but the people who really count are the ones with the big money. And they can have access. They can buy the natural resources, and then they can do things that cuts the access. And so when I started this petition about the injustice that's happened over here in Jolly Beach, Jolly Harbor, the removal of our access, the fencing of beaches, on change.org/save365beaches, it's a petition to Prime Minister Gaston Brown. It's a petition to him, because I want him to recognize that not one stakeholders meeting has happened. The most money being spent in our country right now is being spent right here in the place that was sold for $1. Rob Gillespie spending millions and millions and millions in Jolly Harbor right now. Calvin Air spending millions over at Nikki Beach. And yet we don't have access to it unless you are also a millionaire. But the majority of people in Antigua are not. Who are the millionaires? The people making money off of CIP. The perpetual circle, the cycle of enrichment, using rich foreigners we bow to take away our natural resources. This is not about political party.
Yes.
Both of them have been involved in this scheme to rob the people of opportunity.
So I wanted to just ask the questions again that you did ask on your post to see if we address them and see if we need another conversation and how we can take this conversation uh, to another level in another direction to expand it some more, because I'd love for you to send me that link to the petition so I can post it on the page and post it here on the live and other individuals can go and sign it. And from your post, you said, I wonder about what, okay, so one of the things that I wondered about was if there was any good data, if there was any good data on just how many passports have been sold. Is it
Hmm.
a substantial model? Is there a number where we say that's enough? Should we keep on selling as many as we can without any change? And you said, I wonder if there was a referendum, what the outcome would be, but I know I would vote against it. So our discussion has been about for and against, it's been about the CIP. And we have some individuals, we have people in the classroom, Eli, so we should ask them to put either for or against and even give their reason so they can give you some feedback.
Yeah, I mean that would be helpful. I think at the end of the day, we have to remember that we're a tiny island, Antigua. Barbuda is a tiny island. And this thing called sustainable, it means you can do it forever and ever, sustainable. So if we keep on selling passports at the rate that we're selling, is that sustainable? If we keep on attracting billionaires and begging billionaires to develop our shoreline, is that sustainable? What happens? You know, if we had referendums or if we had stakeholder meetings where Bolins and Jennings and Valley Church and Jolly Harbor people could get together and say, hold on there a second, you're selling off our parking? No, that can't work. They don't want us to have stakeholders meetings. And even when they have them, they're just like rubber stamps that they need to like put on there. You know, they don't actually do anything. So I believe that the next election needs to be a referendum on our future. And the next election, before we have a next election, you need to speak to your politicians and you need to learn about the threats, the strengths, the weaknesses of Antigua and Barbuda so that you can talk to the politicians and hear what they have to say. And if you don't believe them, don't vote for them. Simple as that, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's gonna rain on me.
You
So
rain start already? Is it falling?
we
Is it
haven't had
falling?
rain in like 2 months. I'm so happy.
Oh wow! You see, Nikki brought the blessing. You should have
Boy,
called
I
me.
tell you, nice.
Now you call me. So I want to thank you for our discussion. I still have to ask you one question. In retrospect, doing that interview in February. In retrospect, would you change anything? Would you say anything? Would you add
No,
anything?
I've had some local Antiguans reach out to me and say, "Boy, Eli, let me tell you something. I got tax free on the parts for my boat. I got
Yeah.
tax free for my scooter snorkeling tours. I'm really appreciative of what you did. Like yeah, I don't regret it at all. I don't, like my back is broad. When Nikki says that I'm spewing nonsense, I don't really
No, I
care,
didn't
Nikki.
say that. You know what I said? You know
Yeah.
what I call you? Hear what I call you? I said
Uh,
lie, 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 lie. But you didn't lie.
Well, let me tell you, I don't regret none of that. So, I'm happy. Anyway, and thanks for calling me. It's not like I'm not grinding you. I appreciate it. Because the thing is, at the end of the day, as I said back then, whoever calls me to talk about sensible things, I'm going to be there. I don't care what your party persuasion is or who you hate, who you don't hate. If you want to talk about sensible things, I'm going to talk about. I'm going to be there. If you want me to be there.
Eli, I didn't vote. I'm all the way in London. I'm not a part of a party. That's why I can misbehave as I like and be as radical
Okay.
as I like. So when I
Mm,
come to Antigua, I want to come on Antigua on adventure tours. I want Antigua adventure. Yeah, adventure Antigua.
yeah.
Come and get a little experience, bring my munch, and I'd love for us to do even something where we go around the beaches and actually do an interview and record and a
Oh,
one-on-one. I look forward to that.
that yeah. Well, okay, we'll try. I mean, it's getting a little bit more. It's not as fun as it used to be to show people the coastline.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I'll make it fun, but
Okay.
we'll reminisce a bit too. But I
All
thank you
right.
for everything, for all the work, for everything that you push, for everybody that you do. Keep that fire burning all the
Cool.
time, and all my love to your family. Take care of
All the
everybody.
best. Take care. Bye bye.
Blessings. Take care, Relay. Guys, that was our guest this morning for our morning sip. It's our Wednesday sip. That's a wrap. That's a wrap. That's a wrap. Not the wrap that's on my head, but somebody said that's a wrap. That's a wrap. That's a wrap. Somebody said, "Teacher, I love you." Said, "Girl, Nikki, you so fine. Nikki, fine. She blow my mind. Nikki, Nikki, so." Come on, say it. Say it. If you don't say it, we're not gonna wrap this class. We're not gonna wrap this class. Roll call. Where are you watching today's class from? Remember, there's an independent space. Independent. So I independent need. What's that word? Independently need you to support this space and this platform with your money. Yeah, with your coffees. Like if you go to the movie, you definitely have to pay an entrance. If you get on the bus, you got to pay a bus fare. Like here in London, you can't get on the train, the tube, and the tram without topping up your oysters. So you guys gotta top up the work. This is independent work. I'm happy that you guys are joining and enjoying and being educated. I trust that every single time you come to a sip Monday or Wednesday, that you leave wiser than you came. I'm beyond grateful that I was able to get Eli Fuller on, and I think our discussion of him clarifying, not even clarifying, but has given us a little more insight on certain things on him, on what's happening in Antigua and Barbuda. I know that everybody values that beyond anything else. You can't say nothing. And I don't want just a good job. Y'all buy some coffees, send some PayPals. Yeah. I cannot go to, where do I want to go? Let me see. It's summer munches out of school. I want to go to one of those bubbles places or somewhere and just play and just do a thing in London. You know what I mean? I can't do that with a good job today, and you got to show it. Those who enjoy Monday's program too, you can't just say, "Oh my gosh, good job." You got to show it, yeah. Put your money where your mouth is. Put your yes. Put a tip in the cup, yeah. PayPal, clips. What I said clips. I mean coffees, whatever it is. It's an independent space, and I thank you guys so much for all the support. Share the live. Share the live even after watching it. Share it in a WhatsApp group. If there's a particular part of the live that you still want us to extend the discussion, share it, tag individuals. Ensure that you full joy the rest of your week. Today's Wednesday. Our next class is going to be on Monday, and we've already locked our guests in for Monday. So on Monday, we're going to be having Senator Jonathan Joseph. Is he Jonathan Joseph? Is a senator, the young man for the UPP. So on Monday, Jonathan Joseph is going to be in the house, on the platform right here on our morning sip. Remember, it's the morning sip, and we start at 7 a.m. Caribbean time, 12 p.m. UK time. So be on time for the classroom. Those who are late, you got to pay your late class fees, okay? If you didn't do your homework, you're going to be charged for that too. Do not say the dog ate your homework. No, you didn't eat your homework. It's your dog that ate your homework. Your homework. Thank you guys so much for everything. Use better, whether it's Western Union, PayPal, Monzo, direct bank account. You're supporting an independent space. This is independent work. And I want to let you guys know that I full joy the support from all ends. I really enjoy and full joy this space of our conversations and what we're building. So I want to thank you all the time for your prayers, for your support. I want to thank you for sharing the lives and commenting. You see, I like this. Sharon says, this should not just be a one-time discussion. Yes, class, it's not a one-time discussion. On Monday, we have Jonathan Wenner coming in. And guess what, guys? I'm thinking of a guest for Wednesday. I don't know. I like to play. I just like to do like Nikki. I'm thinking of a guest for Wednesday. Thank you, Uncle James. Thank you, Tricia. Thank you, Sharon and McDonald, Alexia. Good morning, everybody. Let me know you're in the chat. Safi, good morning. Good morning, Jean. Good morning, Kay. Hey, Kay Smith. Good morning. Alvin, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. Good morning and blessings. I trust you have a really exceptional day. We're wrapping up our Wednesday sip today. Leave your comment, tag a few people. Chrome, good morning. Aldine, good morning. I got to put Aldine's ad up here. Guys, Aldine, where is it? Where is it? Aldine's ad. Aldine is going to be doing, where did I put it? Did I share it? Aldine, do you know I saved your flyer as Fluffy? Yeah, Fluffy, Antigua and Barbuda Day. I want to give her a big shout out. Let me see if I can put myself a little closer to the Fluffy. Let me go closer to the Fluffy. So everybody give a shout out to Fluffy, which is Aldine. Aldine is having her Antigua Barbuda Day, and she's doing this celebration in her backyard. Okay, I'm trying to see if I can zoom in some more, but it's happening on Saturday, September 5th, 2026. The address, the place to be is 3428 Burner Avenue. Okay, he's like, when you have one of them burner phone, like, I'm gonna be down by burner. I'm just saying. So Aldine is an amazing, amazing chef. She has sweet can done. Like the girl just put your foot in it. Like literally take one of your foot, like one of the foot, and put it in there. So you gotta support Fluffy on Antigua and Barbuda Day celebration. I give you the address already. It's right here on the flyer. And the menu, of course, you can get dikana and shellfish and chop up and goat water and conch water and pepper pot and fried dumpling and a pumpkin pancake. Oh gosh, all day in FedEx. Yeah, FedEx. Nothing else needed to be said. FedEx. You can get the local juice also, and the local drinks like soursop, passion fruit, sorrel, ginger, and the regular water. Listen, what do you mean, Burner Avenue? Is it Bruna? What is it? Brunner Avenue. I said Burner Avenue like a burner phone. I'm just saying. I was thinking Dean had burner phone. Anyway, Nikki, focus. So you can get the water too, not tap water, but you can get water. Okay, you can have some water. You can get oxtail. You can get jerk pork. You can get a rasta pasta, fried fish. Man, all these things is happening at Aldine's Place, Antigua Day, which is the 5th of September. It's a Saturday. One people, one nation, one destiny. I think that's from Guyana, you know. I don't know where Aldine get that part from. But one people, one nation, one destiny. I think that's Guyana. Aldine, check in. Somebody check out Aldine. Check in with Aldine. Make sure you lock the flyer, the date and the time, and support as much as possible. Just wanted to give it a shout out there. Just want to tell you guys, thank you again for the love. Thank you for the support. I'll see you on Monday. Monday's class, we have Jonathan Wenner in the classroom. Do not be late. The other thing is, Dave XYPZ Ray. Dave XYPZQRSTUVNAH. Now do that again. I'm just playing. But Dave Ray was the guest on Monday. Dave and Kenneth Rajak. And I saw a comment where Dave is saying one of the clips that I pulled was just for, to be sensational or whatever he says, which is just like BS as usual. Huh? But we're going to play a longer clip. I'm going to cut a longer clip so you can hear the full aspect of the conversation so you can understand, what Dave was talking about. And then also I have a section or a segment I want to introduce to the classroom called Inner the comment section, like Inner Nikki comment section. Because Inner Nikki comment section in some of these lives and some of these videos that I post, these individuals say some things, and we need to address it. So Inner the comment section on Monday, live right here on the platform, we're going to be doing that. Make sure you're present, walk with your drink of choice, your tea, bush tea, orange juice, water, whatever you desire to have, and bring a notebook and a pen. I'm not going to wrap up today's program without reminding you of our Psalm for the week. Remember, Psalms 23. That is how we started Monday. We said that would be our scripture for the week. I don't know if you've been practicing Psalms 23, but come on, class, let's stay together. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thou Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely, surely, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Most High God. And on that note, we say, Heavenly Father, thank you for your favor, for your grace. Thank you for another week, oh God, of us being able to show up and to deliver, to do your will, to do your work, to share your word, to educate, to awake the sleeping giants, Lord, to lift the hearts and minds and spirits of individuals. We thank you for using this space. We thank you for your blessing from the east, the west, the north, and the south. Father said you'd given us our wisdom on and bless our hands to gain wealth, God, to navigate our lives. And every gift that you've given, oh God, we ask that you manifest it, that you multiply it. Father, thank you for multiplying this platform. Thank you for multiplying the individuals who come here, that they would spread the word and take the good word out, oh God, and bring individuals, oh God, who need to hear your word, who need a space and a place to be and to learn and to grow. May every program that I bring here, God, according to your anointing, according to your direction, let it elevate individuals. Let it lift our minds, our bodies, and our spirit. Help it to be good food. Let it be a good a good table that I would prepare every single sip for our audience, for our classroom, for our mates. Father, we thank you for everything you continue to do. Take us throughout the rest of this week. Take us into the new week, the new month, the new years, oh God, the things that you continue to do. Elevate yourself. Prove that you are God. There is none like you, and there is none that can match you. So we thank you sincerely for everything. We cover everyone under the blood of Jesus. We cover our platform. We cover ourselves. We cover our families. We dip everything that concerns us in the blood of Jesus. We put an anointing and a covering over every single thing that concerns us. And we said to the devil, flee. You have no place here. You have no authority. We stand guard. We stand guard at the doors of our lives, our minds, our bodies, our hearts, and everything that concerns us. And we lock our hearts together in love and understanding in the fruits of the Spirit, God. And we ask that you give us divine wisdom to navigate every single aspect of our lives. This is our prayer. We say that the words of our mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. Gotta go. See you on Monday. Don't miss your class on Monday, all right? Gotta go. Love you guys.